The Tory right risk losing out in the battle for number 10 unless they unite behind one candidate, probably Liz Truss. If Liz Truss and Kemi Badenoch combine their respective 64 and 49 backers, that could go a long way in helping the Foreign Secretary join Rishi Sunak or Penny Mordaunt in the final two. But what do you think? Should Truss and Badenoch unite on a dream ticket to challenge Fishy Rishi and Penny Mordaunt? My email, dan@gbnews.uk. Tweet your thoughts to @GBNews. We've got a poll running there too, and I'll bring you the results very shortly. But first, our political masterminds are back to make their case for their chosen candidate for PM. Look at them. The author and journalist Laura Dodsworth, she's backing Kemi Badenoch. Former Tory Minister David Malla, who thinks he wants Rishi. Chairman of the Freedom Association and ex-Conservative MEP David Campbell-Bannerman, who's supporting Liz Truss. Daily Telegraph columnist Tim Stanley, who wants Tom Tugendhat, in number 10. And Conservative councillor Joe Porter, who's behind the surging Penny Mordaunt. So, David Campbell-Bannerman, let me get to you first. You're going for Liz Truss. Do you think she can do it? Because right now in the MP's vote, she's obviously behind both Sunak and Mordaunt.
I do think she can do it. Obviously, the right is splintered at the moment, but it's coming together. Tonight, we've had Suella Braverman rowing in behind Liz Truss, and I hope we can get Kemi Badenoch as well. And then I think, Liz Truss will become the favourite. I mean, Rishi has slipped back today. But Liz Truss is showing a lot of momentum. So, yes, I do think she can do it.
Laura Dodsworth, look, I love Kemi Badenoch, right? I have loved the woman for years. Her origin story is incredible. It's actually inspirational. Her policy positions are completely aligned with mine. She's anti-woke. I think she's a future Prime Minister. I really do. My concern, Laura, is that at the moment, she is splitting that vote on the right. And it risks Mordaunt and Sunak being the final two, don't you think?
That's possible. But I like the fact that she has gone into this leadership race based on her own conviction and principles. And she doesn't appear to be playing a game that's about vote rigging. Now, I'm going to just make a kind of a light point in favour of her, but I spent half my life on Twitter. But I was pleased to hear her say that she would discard the priorities of Twitter. I think that says a lot about who she is. It's a small point, but it means something a little bit more about ignoring the elite chattering classes, hopefully discarding polls as politicians have relied so heavily upon. Like you say, she's anti-woke. I think that will chime with Conservative voters, but also most of the country. Now, it feels like this is setting a very low bar, but she knows what a woman is. And furthermore, she's against self-ID, and she's had the confidence to say so. For me, a black mark for Penny Mordaunt is whatever rowing back she does now. She has said at the dispatch box that trans women are women and trans men are men, which is semantically, philosophically not true. I think another point that's very much in favour of Kemi Badenoch at the moment is she's outlined her fears for hyperinflation. And anyone who was alive to the potential consequences of lockdown 2 years ago has also been worried about hyperinflation. I think she has a very clear political philosophy, which is small state, low tax and limited government. Those are true Conservative values, which I think would steer us through a horrible economic mess we're in, but set out quite a clear vision. And essentially, this is what I think it comes down to with Kemi. She has a vision and she's projecting into the future. I think with some of the other candidates, you can't really put a piece of paper between them. But I think she'd present a real challenge for other political parties. It'd be quite hard to come at her. And she's looking into the future. She's talking about what our values should be as a country.
Yep. No, I hear that. Look, I'm going to come to the Conservative councillor Joe Porter next, because there was a little dig there from Laura at your chosen candidate, Penny Mordaunt. And you have to admit, Joe, I mean, the full forces of the right of the Tory party have been unleashed on Mordaunt over the past 24 hours since that bombshell YouGov poll showing that she's clearly the favourite amongst Conservative members. What did you make of that interview by Lord Frost this morning? I mean, he slammed her, Joe. He said she wasn't really committed to Brexit. In fact, she was so bad at her job, he had to ask Boris to get rid.
So, for me, Penny Mordaunt offers this country the fresh leadership that we so badly need at the moment. We need to restore trust in politics and we need to reunite our country. For me, Penny encompasses the high moral leadership that this country needs in these dangerous times. She's got an armed forces background, and she's served in high office. She's served across government in a number of key positions. She's somebody who will deliver for our communities as well. She's somebody who's a very good constituency MP. She does a brilliant job in Portsmouth North. She's demonstrated that she's able to deliver for communities in terms of that. As you quite rightly say, Dan, Penny is polled top of the YouGov poll amongst Conservative grassroots members. She's also the most popular candidate in red wall seats, and personally what I'm interested in is the Conservative Party keeping those red wall seats at the next election, because we got that 80-seat majority. We've got to keep it, and Penny is the candidate to appeal to those red wall voters. She's the one who can carry on that levelling up agenda and try and help some of those left behind communities. OK, David Mallett, you are, of course, a former Conservative minister, a big beast of the party. And I believe you're not that enthusiastic about any of the candidates, but you're leaning towards Rishi Sunak. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, I think the problem is listening to this interesting debate. It's like we're electing someone to run a debating society. What we're electing is somebody to be prime minister. Now, being prime minister is a huge job. And we shouldn't be looking to make ideological distinctions on the head of a pin. We should be looking at somebody who can command a government and can run a government that can deliver effective rule over a whole range of complex issues on behalf of the British people. And that's, of course, where Boris got it wrong. Boris could talk a far better game than he could play, and his government turned out to be a shambles. I have my doubts about Rishi Sunak because I think he's tarnished himself by appearing to be able to run the nation's finance, but having the family finances run by his father-in-law. But Rishi Sunak is a grown-up. I mean, Rishi Sunak has had to go through pretty tough times as Chancellor. And what worries me about some of the others is they really don't. I mean, Penny Mordaunt, for instance, spent 85 days, I'm sure 85 thrilling days, as Secretary of State for Defence. That's all she did. And, I mean, if I was Penny Mordaunt and I had received that accolade from Lord Frost this morning, I just want to go and jump off a high building. Because you really cannot elect a Prime Minister where a man like Frost, now I take the view that Frost is not a very dispassionate fellow. I don't think he's in the pocket of any of the other candidates. He's not that kind of guy. But he was plainly exasperated by Penny Mordaunt. And his exasperation with Penny Mordaunt was on substantive issues about her grip on policy, her ability to master the detail, all the things that a good Prime Minister needs. And I just think it was a devastating indictment of her.
Yeah, I agree. Look, sorry to come to you last, Tim Stanley, but it's great to have you. I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time. You're hanging on in there with your man, Tom Tugendhat. But is the reality not that he's going to go on Monday? He's lost all momentum, Tim.
He is the underdog, but there are going to be debates. And I've always felt with Tom that the more people get to meet him and hear from him, the more they'll like him. My support for him is not ideological. I agree with what David Miller actually just said. I think when you elect someone to be the Prime Minister, I don't think it should be based purely on a sort of tick box and do you agree with me on this position or that position. Really, it should be judged upon character and experience and whether or not you feel you can. And in the case of Tom, I've known him personally for a long time. I trust him. He's someone who I would trust with my life, with my dog's life, and also with my country. And even though I don't agree with him on everything, I think he does have that character and experience to do the job. And I'm hoping that he'll shine in these debates. And given that it's going to get a bit clogged up in the next few days, I think some MPs might start to think, have I made the right choice with Penny? Have I made the right choice with Rishi? And maybe he'll attract a few more votes. We'll see how far he goes.
Because, Tim, I think you're right to say these debates on Friday and Sunday could have a seismic effect on the race. I mean, if someone bombs, it could be game over, right?
That's absolutely right. And that happened with some of the launches. One or two of the launches were a damp squib. And when MPs see that, it can confirm their suspicions, their reservations about a candidate. I mean, Sajid Javid had a very bad early launch. It was small and sweaty, and it didn't have a great deal of
Oh,
substance.
I felt so sorry for him. I know he needed some aircon on. Oh, goodness.
Knocking away the sweat with a towel. It was terrible to watch. But I think what people I expect to see shine in that debate are Tom, obviously, but I think it's Kemi's chance to shine as well.
Yeah, no, it really is.
I think the Brexiteers are going to have to rally eventually and choose one candidate. But
David Mallow?
No, I was just going to say, I think maybe the best candidate to be Prime Minister then is Prince Andrew, because he never sweats.
But he also gives a very bad interview. David Campbell Bannerman, Emily Carver, who's on our Superstar panel tonight, a columnist for Conservative Home, she likes Liz Truss, but she thought Liz Truss didn't perform strongly at her launch today. She felt she was flat with her delivery. Does Liz need to have a bit of va-va-va-voom, get up and go in these debates?
Well, I was there actually this morning at the launch. No, I thought she did really well. And
maybe better in the room, do you think? Or?
Well, yeah, I know. I think she did very well. Some very good points. You know, I like what she was saying this morning. But I agree with David. I mean, essentially, the problem is we haven't got 4 candidates going through to the membership. We've only got 2. And that means experience really counts. And it really does come down. I mean, Liz has got that experience, a foreign secretary, obviously, helping with Ukraine, but also chief secretary to the Treasury.
Well, she's the most experienced member of the cabinet now.
Sorry, say again.
She's the most experienced member of the cabinet now.
Oh, well, she is. And she's got, you know, she's done brilliantly, by the way. You know, I debated her in the referendum in the east of England, in the official debate. She was a Remainer, but not a very passionate one. She was very reluctant. But she's really grabbed it, and she's done a fantastic job on trade deals. I worked for 10 years on the European Parliament on trade deals, and some of those are still waiting. Well, Liz has got the British ones.
Laura and Tim, let me come to both of you about that question of experience, because the problem is your candidates haven't been in cabinet. Laura, is that a bad thing? Does that exclude Kemi, or could she use it to her advantage?
Well, a couple of things I'd say in rebuttal. First of all, there's good experience and bad experience. So Rishi Sunak, for instance, is obviously very experienced. He's Chancellor of the Exchequer. However, he's also presided over the highest tax burden and the highest spending in 70 years. And I think those are 2 very black marks against him.
Yep, good point.
Kemi Badenoch's only been an MP for 5 years. So there is a sense that she would be a little bit of a gamble. But I think
and she has been a minister, I guess, at least.
Boris Johnson was a gamble. So also with Kemi, she's got the backing of Michael Gove, which is quite impressive. And also somebody like Nikki DaCosta, who's a former Director of Legislative Affairs, who's said very positive things about her.
Some people say, Laura, the backing of Michael Gove, that's a bad thing. Tim Stanley, Tom Tugendhat, he hasn't even been a minister. But I was listening to him earlier today, and he actually thinks that's a selling point.
He does, yeah. I think it's a very conservative thing to say it should be someone from the top 3 jobs, Chancellor, Home Secretary or Foreign. I think it's very conservative to pay faith in experience. That's a reasonable thing. But these are highly unusual times. That's the Tom argument. And given that many of the people sitting in the cabinet are to some extent compromised by having been sitting in the cabinet because they were around the table with Boris and because he has added a certain degree of toxicity to British politics, there's a case for saying taking someone outside of cabinet who can immediately provide that, I hate the phrase, but provide that fresh start. I think there's an argument for that.
Okay.
But I just want to add, I think we should avoid political labelling in all of this. Liz Truss campaigned for Remain, right? And yet somehow she's now the Brexit candidate. Kemi Mordaunt is beloved by Tory associations. I've just been reading her book. She doesn't sound terribly Tory. Rishi Sunak is supposedly some sort of centrist dinosaur, but come on, he was very pro-Leave and pro-free ports, and there have been other tax cuts that he has supported in the past. So I find it strange how Tories are allowing themselves to become tied up with these political labels, which will only do themselves damage reputationally, but don't actually reflect the record of the people who are running.
Great points. Thank you to all of you, my political masterminds. That's the Daily Telegraph columnist Tim Stanley, just there. Do come back soon, Tim. The author and journalist Laura Dodsworth, former Tory Minister David Mallow, a big beast of the party, of course, chairman of the Freedom Association and former Conservative MEP David Campbell, and backing the woman with all the momentum, Councillor Jo Porter, Kemi Mordaunt. surrogate tonight. So what do you think? Should Liz Truss and Kemi Badenoch unite for a dream ticket to challenge Sunak and Mordaunt? Well, Alba on Twitter says, yes, Liz should offer to make Kemi Deputy Prime Minister. That would still be an absolutely huge accomplishment for Kemi, and she will secure her chances of being PM next time round. Right now, the right must unite if it wants to maintain power. I think that's a brilliant idea, Alba. I'm fully on board with that. From Dave on Twitter. How is Truss, a literal Liberal Democrat Remainer who lacks even basic awareness of her brief when discussing issues with foreign ministers, and anyway, a dream ticket? She's continuity Boris with a lower IQ and shorter attention span. Oh, that's mean. And from Robin on email, Kemi is better than that. She is there to win, not come second, which is why she should not support another candidate. She is the only candidate who will leave Labour with nothing to say. All brilliant comments tonight. Your verdict now in. 63% of you agree that Truss and Badenoch should unite to take on Sunak and Mordaunt. 37% of you say, no. Badenoch, she could be PM. She needs to go her own way. This is going to be a fascinating 3 days. And, of course, Monday night show is going to be explosive.